Good morning. Welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Hamilton. We welcome you here inside the sanctuary and those who have joined us online. We ask that you silence your cell phones during worship, with one important exception. Please feel free to use your phone in order to access our hearing assistance system, especially if you have TQA. My name is Amy Sewell, and I'm helping as worship leader today. I want to thank today's speakers, including Reverend Danny Weber, Richard Douglas Chen, Mel Rutherford, Adam Weber, and Matt Biscola. Whoever you are, whomever you love, wherever you are on your journey of faith or search for meaning, today you're one of us, and you're welcome in this house of worship. Our mission is to nurture each other, serve the community, and inspire action to heal.
Good morning, everyone. Today we give thanks for this land on which we live, grace of the Between the Lakes Purchase of 1792 between the British Crown and the Mississaugas. These are the traditional territories of the Erie, Neutral, Huron-Wendat, Haudenosaunee, and Mississauga people. This territory is covered by the Dish with One Spoon Wanton Belt Covenant, an agreement between the Haudenosaunee and the Anishinaabe to share and care for these once pristine lands. Among many indigenous peoples, we know that sexual diversity has historically been the norm, not the exception. The Cree term for two-spirit LGBTQ persons is tasta I inu, which means a person who is in between. The term two-spirit was first envisioned by Elder Mira Laramie, also Cree, who proposed its use during the 3rd annual Intertribal Native American Gay and Lesbian American Conference held in Winnipeg, 1990. It's a translation of Nismanidoag in Anishinaabemowin. Among the Navajo, Nadlehi means the one that changes in the Dene language. The honoring of sexual diversity among indigenous peoples pre-European contact, and I say indigenous peoples of both Turtle Island, Asia, Africa as well. That kind of existence is not modern. Or it is modern, and we are not the ones that have invented LGBTQ activism because it was there before settlers came. There was a time when trans people were honored among many indigenous communities here on Turtle Island, and that time has come again. I'm going to pre-settle in for the prelude.
is not as fragile as it sometimes seems. That division is not as deep as it sometimes appears. And so we gather together as an act of faith, a reminder, a re-declaration, a rekindling of the trust. That darkness can't ever shut out the light. That kindness is more powerful than we know. That humility and accountability allow us to change. That together we can most certainly bend the arc of this miraculous universe towards beauty, towards justice, towards love. One of the ways that beauty and love and justice can show up in our world is through the stories that we tell. And this morning, I want to share with you a story called From the Stars in the Sky to the Fish in the Sea. It was written by Kai Chang Tom and illustrated by Y. Yant Lee and Kai Yun Ching. Before we get into the story, I wanted to share that the author is Kai Chang Tom. Author Kai Chang Tom is a Chinese-Canadian performance artist and author of the collection of essays entitled I Hope We Choose Love, a trans girl's love note from the end of the world, which was written in 2019. From the Stars in the Sky, or the Fish in the Sea. Once upon a time, in a little blue house on a hill on the edge of town, a baby was born. They were born with both the moon and the sun were in the sky, so the baby couldn't decide what to be. A boy, a girl, a bird or a fish, cat, rabbit, tree, star? So the baby looked a little like everything. They looked a little strange. All the same, the baby's mother gave her child a bath and rocked them in her arms. Your name, she said, is Mulan. And she sang a song that her own mother had sung to her long ago. Whatever you dream of, I believe you can be. From the stars in the sky to the fish in the sea. You can crawl like a crab or with feathers fly high. And I'll always be here, I'll be near standing by. And you know that I'll love you till the day that I die. And even though they still couldn't decide, the baby felt loved. Mulan grew up to be a strange, magical child who was always changing. They grew feathers and wings to fly with bluebirds in the morning, scales and a tail to swim with fish in the afternoon, and fur and paws to play with puppies in the evenings. No matter how many things Mulan became, their mother always brought them back into the little blue house, gave them a bath, and tucked them into bed at the end of the day. As the star rose, she sang, whatever you dream of, I believe you can be. From the stars in the sky to the fish in the sea. And Mulan felt loved. One day, it was time for the child to go to school. They were so excited. They grew a tail of peacock feathers and a coat with tiger stripes. Have fun, said Mulan's mother. But when they got to school, the other students were either boys or girls. They had no feathers, no scales, no leaves, no fur, no fins, not even any sparkles. No one invited Mulan to play. One little boy ran up to the child and asked, "What are you supposed to be?" Milan didn't know what to answer. When they came home, their mother asked them how they'd like school. "It's okay," said Milan. "Did you make any friends?" "Not really," said Milan. That night, Milan's mother tucked them into bed and sang, "You can crawl like a crab or with feathers fly high, and I'll always be here. I'll be here standing by, and you know that I'll love you till the day that I die." And Milan felt loved, but was also worried. The next day, they wore a turtle shell and porcupine spines. No one pulled or poked Milan, but the other children still pointed and whispered. "Did you make any friends today?" asked their mother. "Not really," said Milan. That night, Milan's mother tucked them into bed and sang, "Whatever you dream of, I believe you can be, from the stars in the sky to the fish in the sea." And Milan felt loved, but they also felt sad. The next day, Milan wore no feathers, no scales, no leaves, no fur, no fins, no shells, no spines, not even any sparkles. Milan was invited to play baseball with the boys. No one pointed, whispered, laughed, or stared, but when Milan joined the little girls playing hopscotch, "Boys don't play hopscotch," said a little girl. "Are you a boy or a girl anyway?" asked a little boy. "Didn't you have a shell the other day?" asked the little girl. "And feathers the day before that?" "What are you supposed to be?" said several children at once. "I don't know," Milan shouted, and galloped out of the playground on a horse's hooves, swam through the stream with a fish's tail, and soared up the hill on eagle's wings. "How was school?" asked Milan's mother. "I wore feathers and stripes so that the other kids would think I was beautiful, but they thought I was weird. And then I wore a shell and spines so that no one would pull or poke me, but they wouldn't talk to me. And then I tried to be just like everybody else, but I haven't made any friends, and I can't decide what to be. Why do I have to be just one thing?" "It isn't always easy to be different from everyone else," said their mother, "but you can only be who you are." "What if the other children don't like who I am?" sniffled Milan. Their mother smiled sadly. "I don't know," she admitted, "but I do know this. Whatever you dream of, I believe you can be, from the stars in the sky to the fish in the sea." And Milan felt loved. That night, they slept a deep sleep. The next day, Milan wore fur and feathers, scales, leaves, and many sparkles that glittered like stars. For a moment, none of the other children spoke. Then a little girl said, "You can fly? That's so cool." "I like your sparkles," said a little boy. "I'm sorry I pulled your feathers," said the boy with the red hair. "I was jealous of them." Milan asked, "Does anyone want to play with me?" They showed other children how to gallop like horses, climb like monkeys, and swim like fish. It was fun to be many different things. And the child of fur, feathers, scales, leaves, and sparkles, who was neither a boy or a girl, but many things and always changing, felt happy. In the little blue house on the hill on the edge of town, Mulan's mother smiled and sang the song her mother had sung to her once upon a time. Whatever you dream of, I believe you can be. From the stars in the sky to the fish in the sea. You can crawl like a crab or with feathers fly high. And I'll always be here, I'll be near standing by. And you know that I'll love you till the day that I die. Whatever you dream of, I believe you can be. Child, for you are my child, courageous and free. Thank you for listening this morning. And if I haven't gotten that tune stuck in your head, we'll sing a different song. Number 1053, that's a guess. Is that right? 1053. How could anyone? It's in the teal hymnal, or the words will be on the walls.
On February 13th of this year, the National Park Service in the United States removed any mention of transgender people from the Stonewall National Monument website. The Stonewall Inn, a mafia-owned gay bar in New York City, was the site of a riot on June 28, 1969. The riot was sparked by yet another police raid, and the riot is commemorated annually all over the world in pride parades and celebrations. Transgender people were there that night. In fact, it's hard to imagine how you would erase trans people from the story of the Stonewall riots. Standard procedure in those days was to have police officers take patrons dressed as women into the bathroom for a strip search to verify their sex. The officers would then arrest any trans women or drag queens. On that night in 1969, the patrons refused the strip search. So police took the people they suspected of cross-dressing to a back room in the bar. Patrons who were not detained were released through the front door, but they didn't disperse as quickly as expected. As the crowd grew outside and the tensions grew outside, an officer shoved a trans woman who responded by smacking him in the head with her purse. A rumor spread through the crowd that the patrons that were still inside the bar were being beaten, and the riot began. As the new administration south of the border engages in trans erasure, we need this Trans Day of Visibility more than ever. The Trump administration has been obvious in their approach. Trump announced in his inaugural address that henceforth it is the policy of the United States to recognize two sexes, male and female. He then signed an executive order that went on to read, "These sexes are not changeable and are grounded in fundamental and incontrovertible reality." This directive is titled Defending Women from Gender Ideology. The new administration claims that this move will defend women's rights. Linking trans erasure to women's safety is an attempt to make transphobia not only socially acceptable, but imperative. New laws and orders are amplifying the age-old trope that trans people are deceptive. Trump's recent orders banning trans people from military service reads, "A man's assertion that he is a woman and his requirement that others honor this falsehood is not consistent with the humility and selflessness required of a service member." A Texas lawmaker has proposed that trans people who've had their documents updated be jailed and fined $10,000 because they are lying. And then there are the new laws governing access to restrooms. Every year I go to an academic conference in Florida where it's now illegal for me to use the men's restroom on public property. The issue is not just about whether or not somebody gets to pee. Access to restroom facilities allows access to public spaces. Creating barriers to such access creates barriers to work, to school, to the marketplace, to libraries, to town hall meetings and public discussions, to community. My son Emerson goes to school in Ohio, where the new bathroom law extends to private institutions. He's studying opera. I'm so proud of him. And one of these days I'm going to go to Ohio and I'm going to see him performing in an opera. And the opera will have an intermission and I'm going to need to pee. On his campus, I'm not allowed to access the men's restroom. I am, however, allowed to use the women's restroom. Be careful what you ask for.
Thank you, Mel. If you receive the weekly emails from the Unitarian Universalist Association's Braver, Wiser newsletter, then the words for our meditation will be familiar to you, as this reflection was published 4 days ago. The author, Jess Martinez Hunt, is a queer, non-binary doctorate in ministry, student and researcher, living in Central Florida. I got to meet them a year and a half ago at the Trust Retreat. Trust stands for the Transgender Religious Professionals of Unitarian Universalism Together. And yes, we know that the acronym doesn't actually fit properly. We like it that way.
Pretty effective either.
Once a year, this community gathers for 3 or 4 days of amazing relationship building and caucusing, and an opportunity to share and remember that we are not alone in building the world that we know is possible. So for our meditation this morning, I invite you to relax, close your eyes if that feels safe in your body, perhaps take a few deep breaths. Following this reading, there will be a few moments of silence and then music. During the music, you are welcome to come up and light a candle of joy, sorrow, or gratitude. But first, please settle into your body. Jess's reflection is entitled Trans Joy, and as with all Braver, Wiser reflections, it closes with a prayer. I didn't grow up with trans joy. I grew up with longing, quiet adjustments, and learning how to make myself acceptable. I spent years thinking I was broken, desperately trying to fit into something that was never meant for me. I thought that was just life, fighting for every inch of belonging. Then my daughter, Atticus, came into the world, whole and bright and unabashedly herself, an embodiment of absolute joy, proudly declaring, "I, Atticus," when asked if she was a boy or a girl. She knew who she was and refused to let anyone tell her otherwise. For a while, I let myself hope that she wouldn't have to learn the same survival skills I did. Maybe she could just be. My daughter deserves a world where she isn't forced to fight so hard to exist, one where her joy is expected, nurtured, and uplifted, a world where trans joy is a certainty. Trans joy is sacred, a radiant and unshakable force that refuses to be diminished, a testament to resilience, authenticity, and love. It is communal, a light passed from one another, illuminating the path toward a liberation where we can simply be. Holy in its honesty and wholeness, it offers a glimpse of our world as it should be. Not small, not an afterthought, not a reward for enduring suffering. Trans joy is a life itself, bold, expansive proof that we are real, that we belong, that we have always been enough. That world doesn't exist yet, not the way it should be. I'll make sure that Atticus never doubts her worth. I'll show her that trans joy isn't just possible, it is powerful. It's bigger than the struggle, louder than the hate, more enduring than fear. I'll make sure she faces a future where she isn't just fighting to exist, but living fully, freely, and without apology. In a world that so often seeks to erase, silence, or diminish trans lives, our joy is more than resistance. It is a defiant declaration, an absolute refusal to shrink, a spirited promise that trans folks won't just survive, we will thrive. Spirit of love, may we create a world where trans joy is abundant, expected, and celebrated, where trans kids and trans adults and trans elders thrive in the fullness of who they are. Let this joy be our guide, our resistance, and our sacred promise to one another. Amen. Ashe. Blessed be.
connected in this life. And as we live inside the truth that what affects one of us affects us all. In a spirit of community care, let us open our hearts to one another and all that we hold sacred. We are aware there are sorrows among us too tender to share, and sometimes we hold those in this space with the reminder that they are never alone through anything. Alongside in the struggles and sorrows of this life, there are joys to share too. Milestones, blessings, and celebrations of all kinds, for which we are moved to give thanks. We are delighted to celebrate Mel Rutherford's joy. Today, March 30th, is Emerson Rutherford Parish's 20th birthday. Can you remember when he was a tiny person running all over the church? We're happy to have him here today. Happy birthday. We celebrate in joys among us and rejoice in happiness that flows through our community. And in the practice of experimentation, we have something new to include: gratitudes. The work of our church is never done. It's always humming along. Sometimes work happens in visible ways, and other times it goes unnoticed. But all of this work is worthwhile and worthy of celebration. This morning, we would like to offer gratitude and give a special shout out to Mary Eve. In addition to her dedication to keeping the CYRE program on the run alongside Tanya, Mary went above and beyond to reorganize the children's room. She hauled everything out onto the tables in Fellowship Hall, carefully reorganized everything, and then brought it all back in, neatly arranged and ready for use. With Phil's help, she transformed the space into a brighter and more welcoming area for our little ones. Mary, thank you for your incredible effort and dedication to making our church environment even better. If you want to have a joy, sorrow, or gratitude shared to the larger congregation, you can do it by clicking on the link of our church's home webpage online, or by writing something inside the binder at the side of the sanctuary. Sharing tender moments in our life and witnessing one another is part of building the web of beloved community we have. May we continue to hold space for this community care and share with courage and vulnerability.
Hello, I am Adam, and I use he, him pronouns, and I am a proud trans man. As many trans people will tell you, I knew from a young age that I was different. I didn't feel like a girl, that just wasn't me. But society told me I was a girl and therefore needed to dress and act a certain way. It was uncomfortable and depressing for me, but I didn't have the words to explain it until I was in my 20s. It is thanks to the many amazing trans activists from the 70s, 80s, and 90s who fought for access to gender-affirming care and acceptance within society. These trans activists, many of whom are now older adults, are the reason trans and non-binary people have been able to be more visible in Canada than we have been in the past. Many of them are now seeing their hard work and dedication to trans rights and trans visibility being erased. Currently, the US government and many states are working hard to erase us from history and society and deny access to gender-affirming care. We are seeing similar patterns here in Canada, such as the government of Alberta's anti-trans legislation that denies gender-affirming care for gender-diverse youth. But we will never be erased. We have always been here and will always be here. I attended a lecture a couple of years ago that discussed trans erasure. And one thing that stuck out to me that we are seeing today is that trans people are often perceived as having bad inside them that has to be destroyed. Real life experiences are often shifted to support the social narrative that being trans is bad. We are seeing this narrative emerge again, especially in the false narrative that trans women are just men who want to access women's spaces, such as women's sports, change rooms, and washrooms. This false information is very harmful to all trans people who just want to live their life as their true self. So I would like to tell you the names and contributions of some Canadian trans people who came out of the shadows and into the light, enabling visibility for trans people. Marie Marcelle Gabeau. She founded L'aide aux Transsexuels de Québec in 1980 and stated that the trans community is missing self-love. Rupert Raj, who is probably familiar to some of you, transitioned in the early 70s. He is a gender specialist and psychotherapist. He circulated a newsletter in the 1980s for trans people called Metamorphosis. We also have Michelle DeVille, Jamie Lee Hamilton, Raven James, Sandy Leo Laframboise, Stephanie Castle, Gail Roberts, and many, many more. These beautiful and amazing people organized and fought for rights they didn't have when they were young and rights that are currently being jeopardized today. Dr. Erin DeVore holds the world's first chair in transgender studies at the University of Victoria. In the foreword of Trans Activism in Canada, a reader, Dr. DeVore says, "We all owe a deep debt of gratitude to the folks who were willing to be publicly identified as trans advocates when the public was so abysmally ignorant about and generally overtly hostile towards anything to do with trans." I wholeheartedly agree with this statement, and I know that we need to look to these exceptional individuals to learn from them and follow their lead as we navigate being trans, non-binary, allies, and accomplices in a society that is becoming increasingly hostile towards those who experience and understand gender in different ways. I have looked through the trans archives held at the University of Victoria. If you haven't seen them, I highly recommend checking them out. They have an amazing collection of newsletters, magazines, photos, and so much more. The newsletters and magazines are particularly interesting to me, as they show how trans people shared stories and experiences with others in a time before the internet. They would also send newsletters in envelopes with minimal or no information about the sender to protect the receiver's identity from, the post office knowing that you're getting that in the mail. The pressure from society, government, and some religious organizations didn't stop them from organizing, from finding ways to tell others what was happening in their communities and asking for support. And the current anti-trans rhetoric won't stop us now. Thanks to the internet and modern technology, we have ways to connect with the trans community throughout the world, along with those in society who also support us. Trans people have a voice thanks to those who came before us, and we will continue to use it and remain visible every day.
In the Free Faith tradition, we are the support and resources of our congregation. Our gifts and donations sustain many ministries of our church, the community we have chosen to join and support. We will now receive our offering while we listen to our music minister team.
Thank you for your contributions.
I've been thinking a lot about the meaning of visibility, how it can vary greatly depending on context. High-vis clothing can protect pedestrians on dark, dangerous roads. Dogs wear them too. I love seeing them in their little reflective vests. Alternatively, high-vis is not well suited for hide and seek. I was great at hide and seek as a kid, if I do say so myself. I could contort myself into only slightly uncomfortable poses that let me squeeze into places people wouldn't think to look, hidden in plain sight. I also had patience. I could play the long game. My mom tells this story that once when I was 2, she was busy doing paperwork and realized she hadn't heard me in a little while, so she started looking for me, calling my name. As a few minutes became half an hour and slight concern had turned to panic, apparently I popped out of a cardboard box on the dining table exclaiming, "Here I am," all flushed and sweaty. I had lunch with my mom last week. She told me about the funeral for Eleanor, a woman from the church I was raised in. According to Eleanor's daughter-in-law, my name, the one I no longer use, was one of the few she remembered as her dementia worsened. I tried very hard to keep all the complicated emotions from being visible on my face. You see, I'm no longer welcome in my former church, in part because I'm trans. So I was unable to attend Eleanor's funeral. Well, technically I could have, but it would be akin to the prodigal son returning on the day of a funeral, unrepentant and wearing a miniskirt. My presence would be a spectacle, not a respectful participant in mourning. So I pushed down the grief, heartache, anger, and asked how my family's funny-looking little French bulldogs are doing, and my mom gave me the latest update on their antics. And then I went to work, where I try my best to be seen as a capable, dependable worker. So the grief hung out in my body as a general fatigue. The heartache made camp in my muscles, and anger became a fog in my mind, lest I lash out at one of my innocent coworkers. Part of my job involves sorting newspapers, so I zone out at headlines that talk of government plans to make the lives of my fellow trans folks much scarier. It's exhausting. And while attitudes about and access to mental health supports have improved, our free healthcare, which I'm incredibly grateful for and many Canadians are very proud of, does not cover most therapy or medications. Unhealthy coping mechanisms tend to be much cheaper and more accessible. But I count myself lucky. I don't face the same type of daily harassment that many trans people, especially women and people of color, are forced to endure. And I've been fortunate enough to find people and places where I feel safe to be seen as a more authentic version of myself. The shame and fear I've experienced can make me feel like a wounded animal. But when trust is established, it becomes possible to experience the joy of being visible, fully seen, valued, and accepted as who I am, not in spite of it. Building trust in relationships is hard work. It must be earned and renewed on an ongoing basis. Another reason that I feel lucky is the relationship that I have maintained with my family. But to say we've gone through rough patches would be an understatement. We're far from perfect, but these days I get to go for lunch with my mom. Getting to this point required incredibly difficult and uncomfortable conversations. There were lots of tears and arguments, but also laughter and hugs, and good food. That always helps. One of the reasons I felt safe enough to come to this church for the first time is the welcoming congregation information on its website, as well as an article about how UU sponsored an event that hosted one of my favorite writers, non-binary Canadian author Ivan Coyote. I'm also thankful for the trust that you show in welcoming strangers like me into your community. In the face of difficult times, I hope we may all do the work that builds and maintains trust, leading to the kind of joyful connection that will allow us to face the challenges of our lives as a community greater than the sum of its parts. What will that work look like? I'm not sure exactly. But I think in this room are many intelligent and creative people, and maybe we can think up some ideas together. When deciding to speak on this day of visibility, I wondered if it would make anyone see me differently from now on, look at or treat me differently. But I am slowly, so slowly, starting to believe that no matter what people say or think about me, I deserve to be truly seen, safe, and loved. Please join us if you are willing and able in singing our closing hymn number 95, There is More Love Somewhere.
to say something? Like, so Mac kind of psyched you out and said that was the closing hymn, but there's one more thing. And I'm going to try and hurry up because I know it's getting late. Okay, all right. So I want to, Okay. Yeah, I'll just start to speak, and I've got some slides there to show you. And I want to speak as two things, and one is a black trans man with awareness of two things, which are my racialization and my gender identity. And so this person, where did she go? Come back. Come back. She's very visible and she's very cool. And her name is Cayenne Doshiro. I don't know if anybody's heard of her. Did you lose her? But you saw her. I'm just going to keep talking while they get that sorted. I'll just keep talking. There she is. There she is. So her name is Cayenne Doshiro, and she's awesome. I want to speak a little bit about blackness, because black people have always had to fight. And we fought ever since we set foot here on these Americas, since the 1400s. So that's 600 plus years of fighting. It's all to say that we're good. So Trump, bring it. We are ready. And we fought just to survive the dehumanization of enslavement. We did it when the KKK began to terrorize us in the late 1800s. Now they're ruling the American government. We did it when we petitioned Sir Allan MacNab to help us fight dehumanization in Hamilton, right here. We did it in the civil rights era, 50s and 60s. We did it at Concordia University, which used to be called Sir George Williams. Anybody know about that? 1969, check it out. So 1969, Sir George Williams protest. It was bad, and it was about blackness and black students protesting. 14 of us got deported for that. 97 students got arrested, some of them white, who stood alongside us. And so we're having to do it now in 2025 again. We're good. We're tired, but we're good. And yeah, so, we've always had white co-conspirators alongside of us. We've had Quakers, we've had abolitionists, we've had whites who got spat on and beat up with us at the lunch counters in the States, who got arrested with us at Concordia. So all of this to say that I think we are all in this together. The second awareness is my gender identity, and I have great privilege to be able to pass as a man, meaning that my physical presence right here doesn't shake you up at all. And it doesn't challenge your assumptions about what a man should look like. And some of my trans siblings don't have that privilege. And so that's what I want to talk about a little bit today. So I put up an image of Cayenne Doshiro, who's an author and an activist who might not pass. And she's written a memoir called Cooking in Heels, a memoir where she recounts her painful experience of having a body for whom the public offers no social inclusion, a fact upon which society actually depends, that people like Cayenne are not included. And so I want to talk about that a little bit. I'm going to go to the second slide. I have to point it here, I think. Is it this one? Yeah. There. So you all know them, right? So it's Marsha P. Johnson and Sylvia Rivera. And I want to focus on trans women, especially black and racialized trans women, because visibility can be a very dangerous thing indeed for some trans people. And I ask you to see their visibility and make their safety and well-being our business. And our UU discussion group theme this March is about living love through the practice of trust. And I'm just going to quote from that a little bit. We need the reassurance that when we fall, we can count on being picked up. But what about being pushed? Don't we need to count on that too? A love that won't let us go is essential, but isn't it just as important to have faith in a love that won't let us get too comfortable? And so we don't want to forget about a love that disturbs us. We need a love that keeps us creatively maladjusted to the inhumane and unjust parts of our society, that exposes privilege and unsettles those of us who have it, and pushes us to use our privilege to help those who don't have it. And this tells those of us who are marginalized and tired, I won't let your pain be ignored. And so I want to just talk a little bit about Johnson and Rivera, because you probably know about them, two larger-than-life trans activists in the States, and Mel talked about Stonewall, and they were both present at Stonewall, right at the front lines, and important to remember. And so there's safe-passing cis-trans visibility like mine, which doesn't require a lot of bravery. I can walk down the street anytime, and I can be fine. But then there's visibility that asks you to literally put your life on the line every time you step out the damn door. And that's what I'm talking about there. And that's the visibility I want you to consider. Because in indigenous times, and I spoke about it earlier, in African societies and indigenous societies on Turtle Island, I would dare to say in indigenous societies in Europe, the Celts and so on, that being trans was not a big thing. And there's not that many of us. It's not like we're asking to change the whole society and everybody be trans. It's like really? Like, you can't, like 5%? Like, really? So that's what I'm talking about here. And we were always have been there before the advent of Christian colonization, and I include Europe in that too, places like Ireland, the Celts, and so on, Africa, all the places. So I just want you to think about the fact that, and this was a quote that Kathy gave me, I'm not sure where she saw it, and just think of women like this who living at the intersection of multiple oppressions can be a very dangerous place indeed. And of course we all know that Marcia died. She was killed in a hate crime. And so the next slide I want to show you is this, because New York City, I have to point it back there. New York City promised to make a statue of Marcia and Sylvia Rivera, Marcia Johnson and Sylvia Rivera. They never did it. So the gay people stepped up for themselves. So that's what I'm saying for us to do. We have to step, we can't wait. It's like, let's go. And so what happened was the gay people of New York City, they made their own. And one of them said, we cannot stay idle and wait for the city to build statues for us. We must create our representation by and for our own communities. Let me just see, I'm almost done here. I want to just leave you with a quote from Audre Lorde. There, do you know those women? She's obviously the black lesbian woman on your left. Do you know the other ones? Do you know the one on the right? Who is that? That's Adrienne Rich. The one in the middle, I didn't know her before. Her name is, let me see, Meridel Lesueur, and she's a feminist and proletarian activist. I don't think she's gay, but I'm showing you them because it symbolizes what we all need to do together, because this is a joint thing. And so what Audre Lorde said was, and Audre Lorde said, I want it to be both man and woman, and Adrienne Rich said the same thing, I am man and I am woman. And so these are probably people we would consider gender fluid today. And this is the quote that Audre Lorde gave. I cannot afford the luxury of fighting one form of oppression only. I cannot afford to believe that freedom from intolerance is the right of only one particular group. And I cannot afford to choose between the fronts upon which I must battle these forces of discrimination wherever they appear to destroy me. And when they appear to destroy me, it will not be long before they appear to destroy you. And so that's from her essay, There's No Hierarchy of Oppressions. James Baldwin said a similar thing in a letter he wrote to Angela Davis. He said, we need a love where our liberation is bound together. If they come for you in the morning, Angela, they will be coming for us at night. We must fight for your life as if it were our own. And so I'll just end by saying, if only some of us enjoy the privilege of feeling safe in our visibility each and every time we step out the door, we must work to ensure that in 2025, that privilege is enjoyed by all of us. And I'll just close with that. Thank you so much.
Show love to your neighbor.
Thank you for being here with us this morning. As members of your community have shared reflections on what it means to be trans plus and visible in our world right now. As we leave this sanctuary to move out into the world again, I wish to leave you with a stanza from the poem, Let Fall to the Ground. This was written by trans poet Keith Silva, published in his collection entitled Lady Death. My heart feels the way a wound does as it begins to heal, kind of itchy around the edges, with a buzz of new pink skin, growing to close the gap. My heart feels like the morning after a fever has broken, when you know the worst is over, but you are still weakened from the heart, and there is a quiet hallelujah to find yourself still alive and hopeful in this new dawn. Thank you all.